Hi, my name's Steve Rowland. I'm chairman of Blackpool Supporters Trust. We're here at the Hilton Hotel in Blackpool today, and at 10:30 this morning we have a press conference at which BST will be unveiling our plans to buy the football club from the current owners.
So on my right is Christine Seddon. She is spokesperson for Blackpool Supporters Trust. On my left is Kevin Borodovich. He's the secretary of the trust. My name is Steve Rowland. What exactly are BST proposing? We're bidding to buy the owners controlling 97% shareholding in Segesta Group of companies. And Segesta in turn represents 76% of the share capital of Blackpool Football Club Limited. How will this be funded? In return for that 97% shareholding in Segesta, we're proposing to pass ownership of certain Segesta assets over to the Oystons, namely Quernmore Park Hall and the Travel Lodge land, and will repay certain outstanding loans and to relieve them of their debt to Valerie Bellicon, and also pass across a percentage of the cash at bank balance, all of which totals up to approximately £23 million based on May 2014 financial year end figures. So that's the value of our bid. We're effectively negotiating a leveraged buyout, and I think we're the first supporters trust in the country to try and do this, and we're proposing to give the current owners a combination of property and monies belonging to the football club and asking them to walk away so that BST can assume control of Blackpool Football Club on behalf of the supporters. We're looking to retain the stadium, the training ground, the staff, the team, and enough monies to ensure a viable budget for the next 2 seasons. That's approximately £3 million each year, as we seek new investment from other backers and an eventual return to the Championship on a sustainable basis. I should say there are no other backers involved in this current proposal. So why are we doing this? The majority of supporters no longer have any trust in or respect for the current owner's custodianship of the club. And we believe the situation will only get worse under the present regime, which seems both risk-averse when it comes to investment and lacking in vision for the club and quite disrespectful of us, its customers. So we view this proposal from BST very much as a rescue bid for our football club. Why should the owners agree to the proposal? We think for 2 reasons. Our examination of the financial performance of the club and our projections, given League One status and the dwindling, disaffected fan base, is that Blackpool FC will soon become a loss-making concern, as are the majority of clubs at League One level. If the owners are astute businessmen, they should recognise now is the optimal time to sell. Furthermore, if Owen Oyston, who professes to be a true and lifelong Blackpool FC fan, really has the good of the club at heart and wishes to retain anything of a positive reputation, then he should recognise that the Oystons' graceful departure from Blackpool FC is the best remedy for a toxic situation. We outline in this bid everything that constitutes Blackpool FC as a community asset, both the elements we're using to make the purchase and the elements we're trying to buy. None of this belongs to the owners. The £11 million dividend paid to Owen Oyston in 2012 constituted the last return that the current owners might genuinely expect to make before they move into the realm of asset stripping. We believe BST is offering the owners an honourable and financially sound exit strategy from Blackpool Football Club.
So dear Mr Oyston, the action you take in responding to this bid is just as important to the future of the football club as was your decision to buy the club for £1 in 1987. The question now facing you and your family is whether you still care enough about the well-being and reputation of Blackpool FC to sell it, i.e. your complete shareholding in Segesta, to the Trust for just over £16 million. The club is now perceived to be in such a parlour state that our members have decided it is better to offer to buy our club back by giving you as many of the assets as possible than it is to continue with the Oystons in charge. The actions taken by Carl during the last 4 years have ensured that any good that you and your family may have done for the club has been entirely negated and rendered worthless. You have lost the goodwill and the confidence of the supporters and indeed the people of the Fylde Coast. The Supporters Trust has put together a bid that will give over to you almost every asset that the business currently has. In return, the Trust will retain only the stadium, including hotel, gym, etc., the training ground, enough money to ensure a budget of approximately £3 million each year for the next 2 seasons, and of course the team and its history. We would thus reduce the football club to its most basic form, while still allowing it the possibility to thrive and eventually flourish. This bid will, we hope, begin the process of negotiation that will lead to your honourable departure from the club. You have an opportunity to rectify a dreadful situation and so bring an end to the enmity and despair that has engulfed Blackpool FC in recent years. If you care at all about your legacy and wish to avoid the ignominy with which your stewardship of the club is becoming tainted, then we ask that you take the truly courageous and selfless decision to sell the club to the Trust and thereby prevent any further damage being done to Blackpool FC, its reputation and its future prospects. If negotiations are successful, then the club will take on a new form in that it will be run by the Supporters Trust in combination with the best professional help that we can afford for the benefit of local people, local businesses, the wider community of Blackpool fans, and with the express intent of putting football first. Any outright rejection of this bid will be taken as final confirmation that you no longer have any intention to promote or ensure the well-being of the club or the community that supports it. We would ask that you make a formal reply to this bid by July the 21st, 2015.
In your press packs, you've all got copies of the letter of intent. So you'll see that what we're proposing there is that we're looking for the shares in Segesta. Segesta comprises Segesta Limited, Segesta Properties, Blackpool Football Club Limited, and Blackpool Football Club Hotel Limited. And in return for those 97% shares, we're proposing to pass ownership, as I alluded earlier, of certain assets, Quirmore Park Hall, which was purchased for 1.75 million, the Travel Lodge land, which asset was purchased for 6.5 million. We're also looking to pay to the Oyston family some monies from the cash at bank balance according to a formula. So anything over £2 million, we propose to give them 75% of it. And as of May 2014, that account stood at 8.3 million. So net off 2, that's 6.3, 75% of 6.3 is 4.75 million. And we'd also look to write off outstanding loans, approximately 2.9 million to Oyston Estates Limited, Oyston Limited, Lancashire Magazine, Yorkshire Ridings Magazine, Entertainment Apps, Denwis, Nat Farm. We would also propose to pay off outstanding loans to the Zebax Limited of £41,000 and an outstanding loan to Owen Oyston of £2,000. All of that totals the 16 million I referenced earlier. And if you add in the loan that Valerie Bellicon has made to the Oystons, which we would undertake to take over so they wouldn't have to repay, that comes to £23 million. There are some conditions attached to this proposal. It's non-binding. The form of the final proposal is contingent on full visibility of various documents, including but not limited to the financial accounts for the year just ended 31st of May 2015. BST reserves the right to amend the form of its proposal based on more recent information. There's also a non-binding clause. This is indicative of our proposal. It's intended to serve as a precursor to negotiations of a final written agreement, which may or may not contain material terms in this letter and beyond. And by submitting this letter, we're not creating an exclusive right to negotiate or an obligation to buy, and we insist that either BST or the Oystons should be able to terminate these negotiations at any time at their sole discretion. So these documents are a summary of our position, and we hope that the Oystons will review them in a positive light and all parties can proceed to the next stage. I'm now going to hand over to the Secretary of the Trust, Kevin Bolonovich, who's going to just outline a few more of the details in our rationale for the bid. Thank you.
Turnover for the club for 2012, 2013 and 2014. And you can see very clearly that there is a year-on-year reduction in the total. And also you'll be able to see that substantially those monies have come from the parachute payments. That's one of the reasons why the club has been able to post profits over the last several years. It doesn't, of course, include the 7 million that's an outstanding debt to Valérie Bellicon. So again, we think those figures are artificially inflated to some degree, and the 2015 and 2016 figures are going to be reduced substantially from that amount because the parachute payments will no longer exist. So we've looked at comparators for the 2014 season with other clubs, and we think, given the circumstances that we're in, that we can realistically expect to have a budget of around 3 million for the next 2 seasons. Part of that will come due to increased revenues as fans return to the club that have currently abandoned it. And although we'll be amongst the lowest in terms of our turnover in League One, we still think we'll be able to compete reasonably. The initial aim is to make the club competitive in League One. We're not looking to be promoted within the first season, but we do intend to look after the footballing well-being of the club. Financial fair play measures that we talk about in regard to League One and League Two will restrict us in terms of the amount of money that we're able to spend, because it's based on 60% of turnover. With having provided a season ticket, the 2-in-1 deal, this year's income is likely to be very much reduced, and we're going to struggle to stay within that 60% limit and be competitive. We've talked about the relationship with Valérie Bellicon and the importance of the loan that he's given to the club that funded the South Stand, and is being paid back at an extremely reduced rate. We intend, if we do get the bid is successful, to improve the return to Mr. Bellicon. And that's basically it.
The Trust would step in to review how the club has been run, review what its weaknesses and strengths are, take steps to employ professional people in every respect to give us the best chance of having a sustainable and viable club at the level we're now at, which is League One. We would look to attract other investors as well, people who are interested in both promoting Blackpool as a football club, promoting Blackpool as a community, because the two things are indelibly linked, we believe, and also having some respect for what we as a supporters trust are trying to achieve in terms of a football club that belongs to the people. If the Oystons reject out of hand, I think that will send a clear message to everybody in Blackpool that they really don't have the interests of the football club and the community at heart. And as I said, I fear that matters will only just intensify in terms of more protests, more disaffection. And we will continue to work behind the scenes to persuade them to go by politic means. We will work behind the scenes anyway with other organisations to try and change the governance of football so that supporters' trusts, by law, eventually have some say in how their clubs are run properly for the supporters.
It's a hostile bid, so we're not trying to pretend it's a nice thing. What we're saying is that the likelihood is in future, and I know I didn't explain this well, but the likelihood is in future that the value of the club will be reduced. It's already at an inflated price. When they talk about 32 million or anything beyond that, it's not worth that. They will not get that money for it. They'll only get that from somebody that cares about it. The bid that we're putting in, we care about the club more probably than anybody else, and this is the best bid they're going to get. And we will come back possibly with bids in the future, but they'll be likely for less than this as the club's value goes down. This is the time to sell. And it will, I think, make really not just good business sense, but good personal sense for the Oystons.